Hi and welcome to this episode of Thin Air, where I'm going to talk about head tracking, especially on the AVATA 2. Head tracking is something that I use every time I fly with the AVATA 2. And it's quite natural for me actually. I don't think about it when I fly with the drone. But I know that is not the case for everyone using the AVATA 2, that they don't use the head tracking. If you use the remote controller, the RC3 remote controller, then I think it's more difficult to use the head tracking than when you're using the motion controller. I think the motion controller and head tracking is a very good combo actually. So let's get started. Before you lift off with the drone, make sure that your head is somewhat straight. So you're not sitting like that, so you're not sitting like this when you start with head tracking, because that will make things more complicated in the future, so to speak. And another thing is that you need to turn the head tracking on before you start flying. And this is something I turn on every time before I start flying. So let's get airborne. So once you have pressed the trigger a little bit, the head tracking will be activated. And the up and down movement is the movement that you mostly use when you use the head tracking. I think that is the most common movement. Doing like this is something that you don't do with the drone while you're flying, especially not when you're filming, because this doesn't look good in the end of the day. You can see that there's a meter on top of the screen showing you where you are keeping your head. So if you're not keeping your head straight, that pointer will be moving around. And if you want to recenter that, you can always pause the drone and restart it, and it will be recentered. Okay, let's get flying. So, what should you use head tracking for then? Let's say you go up like this. One usage of head tracking is simply just to look around. Let's say that you want to look around yourself, what you have here. That's like a good usage of it. But it's not something that you normally film. So this is not something that you use while you're actually recording. But you could be looking around to spot an area where you want to go. Let's say I want to go down into this forest here, into these woods. But once you fly, you need to. Another thing is that I'm using the head tracking for framing. So normally, if let's say you have your camera fixed and you don't use head tracking, the frame would look like something like this. Quite a lot of empty space or sky on the frame. But if I use the head tracking, I would fly like this, so you don't have too much empty sky on the top, because it looks better to have the ground in there instead of the sky. And then let's come down. I'll be looking down on the ground where I want to go. For instance, that start thing. And one crucial thing with flying with head tracking is that you are not looking where you're pointing your camera. Let's say you're flying straight like this, then you will be looking straight to see any obstacles and so on that you want to avoid. But let's say that you fly looking down like that, then you need to be looking. Then you need to be looking on the top of the screen all the time. You keep your eyes on top of the screen. Don't mind actually what you're seeing on the ground, because that's something you will miss. But you need to be looking up on the top of the screen to make sure that you don't navigate into any obstacles or something like that. So that is one thing that I've learned, is that you don't look, in this case, down. You look as much as possibly up when you fly. So you have to keep some in the frame. You need to keep some of the surroundings in your frame so that you can see where you're actually going, depending what you're doing, of course. If you know that this is, let's say, you go up a light bit, you know this is clear because you have seen the area is clear, then you can look straight down and fly straight ahead without any issues. But I can't continue like this forever, because I will end up in a tree eventually. So I need to look a little bit up and keep my eyes a little bit always on the top of the tree. so I don't fly into anything. And the same thing is if I look up like this, I need to then be looking down on the screen. And the same thing is here, is that I need to be, first of all, looking in advance. What do I have in front of me? Okay, I have some bushes that I want to eat my airplane, so I need to, or drone, I need to be looking downwards as much as possible, or keep some of the ground in sight, so I know that if there's anything coming that I need to avoid. That's the key, I think I'll say, to avoid running into anything. So I think that is the most important thing, is that to keep your head steady, move your head slowly as you would move the camera slowly when you tilt the camera. And if you're looking sideways, that's another thing. We'll come to that. I think sideways is very useful. Let's take this pole as an example here. Let's say that I would like to fly around this pole and keep the pole in center. If I fly with a fixed camera, it's not very easy. I need to be very close to the pole to see the pole, and I will mostly crash into the pole eventually. So head tracking comes to rescue. You fly against the pole, keep the pole in frame, and then you circle around the pole all the time. Keep the pole on the side of the frame, and then you circle around this. And this is very useful when, let's say, that you want to show something. You circle around this tree, for instance. You look on the tree all the time, but you fly a little to the right of the tree, and then you start circling around the tree, but keeping your eye on the tree. And this can be combined with, let's say, a movement up or down. So let's say I could be going up at the same time, but looking on the tree all the time. And then I need to control, so the drone keeps flying around the tree all the time, but I'm still looking down on it. So that's a quite nice shot, actually, circling the tree all the time. This could be something nicer a bit than a tree, of course. So the head tracking, if you want to use it for, let's say that you want to look sideways, then it's another thing. Let's come down here. Let's say I want to fly along this road, but I want to look to the left like this. Obviously, I can't fly, so that I need to see the road. So I need to see a little bit of the road to be able to fly sideways. So I can keep the circle on the road, then I can fly sideways. Again, if you know that there is no obstacle there, then you can look further to the side than before. But you need to keep a little bit of that road in the frame so that you know where you're going, then you can fly sideways. I find that panoramating with the camera is not as easy as tilting the camera up and down like this. Looking sideways and flying, it's not as comfortable, I would say. And it's much easier to get, let's say, the horizon where you're going actually off frame when you're flying sideways like that. So you need to make sure that there is nothing in the way where you're going. And then if you combine all these things together, let's say that you're coming to this small bridge, you start looking down into the water. You can combine all the movements. So you don't need to actually fly the way you would want to show this bridge, but you can combine all the ways how you put them together. And that makes it very nice with the head tracking, that you can look up and down, circle to see what. Here we have a beaver, actually. He's been cutting down trees. I can show you that. That is a good use case of this. I need to watch out for these branches. Start looking down and getting down to the tree stump. Oh, there was a branch in the way anyway. I'm looking at the branch, turning around here to show you what the beaver has done. When I came to the branch and so on, I tried to make sure that the area was safe. no branches in the way. Here we have a very small gap, so I need to be moving very slowly. Again, I can look on the tree, pass it, almost crashed into it actually. But in these cases, the head tracking is very useful actually. To see, I think the beaver has its nest somewhere here down the creek, but it's really hard to get into that. There is a lot of branches everywhere there, so it's really hard to fly into that. And I need to make sure that I don't fall into the water here, because there's a lot of problems in the way here all the time. It's nice that you have so good view in your goggles that you can avoid those small branches. Let's see if I can navigate through here, trying to avoid the water actually. I don't want to fall down into the water, so I can get through here. And then I need to keep my head as straight as possible when I do like that, fly through small patches, small areas. So, to conclude the head tracking, use it. If you don't use it, you don't get used to it. You need to turn it on, and you need to find the right stance for your head. So you need to best if you sit down in a chair like I'm doing now. So you need to find how you keep your head most straight. If you move your head, move it mostly up and down. That's the most cinematic movement, I would say. Looking sideways is maybe not as cinematic, I would say. A good thing is to learn how to, let's say, circle an object. And this doesn't need to be a close-up circle. This could be a further away of a circle. And it's only possible if you have your head tracking on, actually, that you can do the circling like this. And if you find that the head tracking is getting skewed from where you are pointing your head, you think you're doing, then just pause the drone and start it, and the head tracking will be resetted. So that wasn't too complicated. I don't think there is much more to talk about head tracking, because it only does what it does. It tracks your head. See you in the future episode of Thin Air. Bye bye.